You know that feeling you get when you drive a boring car? A car that sparks zero joy, doesn't have enough power to pass anything, let alone able to win any, well, legally I have to call them acceleration contests. Anyway, I hate that feeling, and I hate it so much that I taught myself how and where to search for cars that present a ton of value for the money and will compete in both clout and performance with cars that are nearly double the cost or even more. But today, instead of selfishly filling up my own driveway with good deals, I'm going to use my powers for good, and I'm going to share with you the best cars that you can buy under $10,000. But before we jump in head first, we got to hit you with the plug. If you're digging the content, subscribe. Our team works really hard to give you daily content. Give the video a thumbs up. It helps us get in front of more car enthusiasts just like yourself. And if you ever need anything, wheels, tires, or suspension, come see your boy over at FitmentIndustries.com. We have over 1 million different wheel and tire packages, plus accessories and merch, and you don't even have to wait for your delayed tax return. You can build now and pay later with your tax return as low as 0% financing from a firm. These guys are rock stars. Anyway, let's get into the video. So you're in the market to buy a new to you car, and you've got about a $10,000 limit, but you also want something fun to drive, something that sparks joy, has a little bit of power, is easy to modify, and would look sick with some aftermarket wheels. But just how much fun can you have for just $10,000? Well, for starters, what if I told you you could get a 330 horsepower rear-wheel drive car with tons of racing and JDM heritage, does 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, does the quarter mile in the mid-13s, and handles like the sports car that it is. You probably think I'm crazy, but there's plenty of examples of Nissan 370Zs out and about for under $10,000. Which is wild because Nissan will still sell you a brand new 2020 model with 0 miles that's largely unchanged from a 2009, except a well-equipped one is going to cost you about $40,000. So what are you waiting for? These cars really don't have any major issues outside of having that trash 2009 interior, but $10,000 or less for Nissan Z car with over 330 horsepower is an absolute steal, and not a ton of people know that these cars got super cheap. This is definitely one of those ones that seems much more expensive than it actually is, and is a very good starting point for any sports car enthusiast, especially with a JDM twist. An Infiniti G37 has the same drivetrain, is typically even a little cheaper, and has 90% of the performance characteristics. Or maybe you just want something with a ton of horsepower and could care less about anything handling related. Well then, boy, do I have the budget rocket for you. In 2003, Mercedes-Benz took their mid-size E-Class sedan and then took a 470 horsepower, 515 torque, supercharged 5.4 liter V8 and shoved it in the engine bay and called it an E55 AMG. 0 to 60 takes only about 4.5 seconds and absolutely obliterates the quarter mile with mid 12-second passes. Now, at the time, these cars started at $75,000 and you could tack on about $10,000 in additional options. So to see these cars come in at under $10,000 really makes me wonder why more people aren't buying these cars. And so there I was, buying a high-mile 2003 E55 AMG for $7,000 in the name of science. Well, as it turns out, when you have things like massaging, ventilated and dynamic seating, self-popping doors, and a high wattage, high-tech audio, the aging electronics tend to become problematic and likes to drain the batteries, which this vehicle has 2 of. And as it turns out, even at 16 years old, as far as the Mercedes-Benz parts department is concerned, you're still maintaining an $80,000 car, and the prices of parts are quite expensive. But with a slight understanding of how to use the good old Google and Facebook, it's really not unreasonable to maintain these cars. Anyway, these cars aren't going to be a good handler, but if you want a cooled butt massage while murdering most cars at any speed on the highway, you love big smoky burnouts and flying under the radar, the E55 AMG is the car for you. From there, if a turbocharged front-wheel drive application is more your cup of tea, the Chevrolet Cobalt SS turbocharged is a fantastic option in this price bracket. With a 260 horsepower 2-liter engine, this was a sport compact car not to be taken lightly when it came out. I mean, Christ, these cars were literally beating up on WRXs, Evos, and even S2000s on the road course. With a bunch of horsepower and the nature of the front-wheel drive, the 0 to 60 for these cars is right at that 5.5 second mark with quarter mile times in the low 14s, which is still plenty quick for the money, or lack thereof, that these things demand. Now, much like the 370Z, the interiors are just, they're trash. They're really not that great, but they look great. They have plenty of power. They're very easy to make more power, and they handle extremely well for their class. A couple of bolt-ons and you can go spank on some Focus STs and Type Rs for a significant amount of less money. These cars are even quite reliable and cheap to maintain. And if that's not enough, you could actually get this very 260 horsepower 2-liter and maybe even a more unassuming rear-wheel drive Pontiac Solstice GXP, and they're still under that $10,000 mark. Both fantastic interior options that are more than capable under $10,000. For those looking for a world-class all-wheel drive system with a boosted drivetrain and a solid interior, I cannot recommend the B8 generation Audi S4 enough. The 333 horsepower supercharged V6 gave this car a super aggressive power curve. The supercharger crams tons of torque to the wheels down low, and the engineering of the platform has these cars pulling hard all the way up to Redline. Audi actually underrated these cars a little bit. Where they claimed 330 horsepower with the crank, they were typically actually seeing about 320, 330 wheel horsepower, making it closer to 360 crank. And with the optional dual clutch transmission with launch control, these cars can nail 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds, which is stupid quick for a car that you can snag at that $10,000 mark or less. With that, these cars are ripping the quarter mile in super low 13s and are getting into the 12s tune only. All with the comfort and quality you would expect from Audi and its famous all-wheel drive quattro system. There are a couple lurking gremlins in these cars, like common early DSG issues and needing a carbon cleaning about every 50,000 miles or so, since it was direct injected. Following the all-wheel drive train, another huge one here with a pretty niche demographic is going to be the Volvo V70 R, but more specifically the P2 platform V70 R, spanning from 2004 to 2007. Now bring yourself back to 2004 for a moment. The first WRX STI came out with a V8 killing 300 horsepower all-wheel drive sedan, and it was the coolest thing ever to come to the States at the time. But right then and there, Volvo, a brand known for boring, safe cars, came to release a 300 horsepower all-wheel drive 6-speed manual station wagon with Brembos. Dude, give me that. Oh, and did I mention this thing is a turbocharged 5-cylinder? Talk about a fantastic sound. Your RS3 P2 Volvo Rs did it better.
Watch your profanity.
These can make some solid power too and have an interior that's much more modern feeling than its early 2000s competition. The reason these cars are more of a niche thing though is because of the questionable design. Not that it's necessarily bad, it's just so kind of understated and unassuming, or maybe even worse, it's really boring looking. But considering these cars are, at least on paper, very similar to a Blob Eye STI, getting into something like this for well under $10,000 is an amazing feat. And the wagon practicality makes it a daily driving no-brainer. And these cars have a really neat, kind of awkward shifter as well. I don't even know how to explain it, so let's just roll the B-roll. This is what people have dubbed the Spaceball shifter, and apparently if you get anything stuck on there, it scratches the out of it and makes a terrible noise. And you can get orange seats. That's pretty neat if you ask me. Now for this one, you guys are going to want to grab some short golf shorts and a pair of white New Balances, because the C5 generation Corvette can be had for under $10,000, and it's a super good buy for the money. The C5 Corvette introduced the LS1 into the world for 1996 as the 1997 model year, boasting 345 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of late 90s, early 2000s pushrod torque, the low-slung 3,200-pound chassis with a 50-50 weight distribution. This car was a monster when it came out. Nearly 25 years later, its previously advanced engineering and styling has really dated the car, leaving tens of thousands of massively depreciated sports cars for pennies on the dollar. Quarter mile times in the low 13s and a 0 to 60 in 4.8 seconds. This is still a very quick and very fast car, especially when you consider the price. $10,000 6-speed C5 Corvettes aren't hard to come by. It probably won't cost as much to maintain as some of the newer, more German cars on this list, but you do sacrifice that interior quality for race car engineering. Anyway, this is a 350 horsepower V8 stuffed inside a 3,200-pound elongated Miata. They handle good, they go in straight lines very quickly, and they aren't likely to depreciate. A hard one to pass up for under $10,000. Now, whenever I suggest this next one to someone who hasn't ever owned one, seems to kind of scoff at the idea of owning a Hyundai. But Hyundai has come a long way since the turd of a Tiburon. In fact, in 2009, Hyundai dropped a rear-wheel drive sports coupe with a 300 horsepower 3.8-liter V6, and they called it the Genesis Coupe. Hyundai had its sights set directly on the 370Z and the Mustang GT, and they did a damn good job competing with those cars for a lot less money even when new. They took the formula of fun and brought it to the masses with a really attractive entry price. And luckily for us, Hyundai was still in the process of proving to the people that they had changed their car ways. And when the Gen Coupe released, they were still in that process of that transition, so they depreciated really, really quickly. You can get a really actually decent Gen Coupe with either a 275 horsepower 2-liter turbo, or you can get the gigantic 300 horsepower V6 with right around 100,000 miles for just $7,000. Again, it's so weird to me that more people don't have these things. And if a 300 horsepower V6 doesn't get you going, how about a 300 horsepower V8? In 1995 for the 1996 model year, Ford had a brand new engine for their SVT Cobra, a 4-valve dual overhead cam 4.6-liter modular engine, which made 300 horsepower, 75 more than the GT at the time. And right now, these cars are kind of at that awkward stage of being an age that they're pretty well forgotten about, but not quite old enough to be cool again. Parts are stupid cheap for these cars. The interiors are terrible. It's kind of heavy, all things considered, and the stock wheel gap is absolutely atrocious. But for not a whole lot of money, you can get into an SVT engineered Cobra that will rip to 60 in under 6 seconds. It's going to run the quarter mile in low 14s. Not a bad starting point. And with some really basic suspension modifications, these cars can hang with the best of them on the racetrack. And last, but certainly my favorite, the W220 generation Mercedes-Benz S600 will rock your world. In 2003, Mercedes decided to take their already fast V12 S-Class and slap a pair of turbos on it. That's right, ladies and gents, you can get a twin turbo V12 car for less than $10,000. 490 horsepower, 590 torque. This 4,600 pound land yacht is still a rocket ship. 0 to 60 takes just 4.5 seconds, rockets through the quarter mile in a 12-second range. These cars are absolutely insane. These things have 8 piston Brembo brakes, heated, vented, and power reclining rear seats, massaging front seats, dynamic cruise control, and the most magnificent riding suspension you've ever felt in your life, which is probably why these cars had a starting price of $123,000. But not to worry, luxury cars depreciate ridiculously quick, and now you can grab a fair amount of these cars under the $10,000 mark. And mechanically, these cars are super solid and very reliable. It's just that there's a few common problems that can be expensive to fix, like the coil packs, for instance. Got a misfire? Well, these cars have a big one-piece coil pack for each bank of cylinders. So you have to change the whole side if you do have a coil pack failure, which is pretty common, at the tune of $2,000 per side. And while you're doing that, you may as well change spark plugs too. And there's 24 of them, so good luck with that. Anyway, these cars provide a ton of value for the money. I mean, come on, just the features of the car alone without its crazy performance is enough to make $10,000 worth it. But that's gonna wrap it up for this list of the best cars you can buy under $10,000. Let me know what your favorite cars under $10,000 are in the comments, and let me know what you think I may have missed. I hope you enjoyed the video or at least found it informative, and if you do, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with the daily uploads. And head over to FitmentIndustries.com to get some wheels, tires, and or suspension to take your ride to the next level. I'm Sean from Fitment Industries, SeanB.fi on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.